Brandon Boykin lines up in one of the slot positions. Now he slides in motion. He'll take a handoff from Murray. Comes to the near side with a block. There's Boykin, 25-30, 35-40. Boykin midfield, 40, 35-30. He angles to the far side. 20, 15, 10. Race to the corner. Touchdown, Brandon Boykin.
We just crushed their face.
The countdown to the SEC Championship starts now with the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. Save thousands of dollars a year on your wireless bill by switching to Metro PCS. To find out more, visit metropcs.com. Metro PCS, wireless for all. The Metro PCS Tailgater Show is also sponsored by Charter Communications. Get the fastest internet speeds in the area with Charter's ultra-fast Ultra 60. Call 888-GET-CHARTER or go to charter.com/ultra for more information. Cotton States Insurance, provider of your insurance tangible game plan. By CPI Security Systems. CPI, protecting what's important. Cook's Pest Control and Centricon, the unbeatable combination for termite protection. By Bulldog Banking from Bank of America. By Flash Foods. By Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. By Georgia Farm Bureau and Farm Bureau Insurance. By IBEW Local 613. Experience our code of excellence. The Georgia Egg Commission. Eggs, nature's miracle food. The Jim Ellis family of automotive dealerships. By Serve Pro. Fire and water damage cleanup and restoration. Serve Pro like it never even happened. Jameson Inn, the South's leading hotel chain. By the Foremost Insurance Group Auto Program. And by Georgia Power, official power source of the Georgia Bulldogs. Now to the Georgia Dome in downtown Atlanta. Here's your host, Neil Hondo Williamson.
As the crow flies, it's less than 1 mile from Woodruff Park in Atlanta to the Georgia Dome, site of today's SEC championship game. At the entrance to Woodruff Park, there's a sculpture, Phoenix Rising from the Ashes, that symbolizes Atlanta's rebirth after the devastating fire of the Civil War. Today, the Phoenix Rising from the Ashes is our Georgia Bulldogs football team, which only 3 months ago left the Dome 0-1, having been humbled in the season opener. This afternoon, Mark Richt's Dogs return with a 10-game winning streak to take on the #1 team in the nation, Louisiana State University. Hello, Bulldog Nation. Welcome to the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. Metro PCS, wireless for all. Joining me here on the 45-yard line at the Georgia Dome are Loran Smith and Eric Zier. Upstairs in the broadcast booth is the voice of the Bulldogs, Scott Howard. May I have some sound, please?
When our seniors, some of the leaders like Ben and Boykin got up in front of the team and pretty much told us that this season's not over. It's a long season. You never know what could happen in the SEC. And then they really took over this team and have done a great job of leading us, all the seniors, leading us all year, and just really not letting anyone, feel bad for ourselves, for the team and the direction we're going.
Gentlemen, 3 months to the day. That was Aaron Murray, by the way, our quarterback. From September 3rd to December 3rd, our Bulldogs have made a dramatic turnaround from the opening game, Scott, to SEC East champions.
Yes, and a few reasons. Aaron Murray passing, very good receivers, pretty good protection over the course of the year, did not lose the turnover competition in any game after South Carolina, and played outstanding defense.
No question about that. This has been built on the backs of a defense that has really risen to the occasion, grown game in and game out. Aaron Murray, 32 touchdown passes, continuing to play very well. Also built around young guys stepping into situations before their time, before maybe they were ready, and playing at unbelievably high levels.
I point to two things. One, mental toughness. This defense developed mental toughness, a big thing, a big change from last year. And the fact that Coach Richt never lost faith in his team, even when the record was 0-2. He counseled with his players. If any of us could have been in all the meetings, I heard some, you would have been greatly appreciative of the positiveness which Coach Richt used to try to keep his team thinking they could develop into a winning football team.
All right, today the task is to try to topple an LSU team that's beaten 7 ranked opponents already this season. Scott Howard, what will we have to do defensively to stop the Tigers?
Well, I think number one is you have to tackle well. Jenkins and Gathers and Avery Jones and Garrison Smith and D'Angelo Tyson, if he's able to play today, those guys up front have to be able to tackle and slow down that vaunted LSU rushing attack. It's got 4 heads, and they're all ugly heads, and Georgia's going to have to be able to tackle well. They got to contain Jordan Jefferson somehow, and I think we're going to have to force some turnovers, and LSU doesn't like to give up that football. They've only committed 8 turnovers all season long. I think Georgia's going to have to come up with a couple of those today.
Eric Zier, fast forward to 8 o'clock tonight. The Dogs have shocked the nation. How did we score on this heralded LSU defense?
Well, it's going to be a challenge, but if we want to be successful tonight, I really believe it's got to be on the arm of Aaron Murray. Aaron Murray, we just mentioned 32 touchdown passes on the season. He's got 14 touchdown passes in the last 4 games, playing at an exceptionally high level. When you look at this LSU defense, albeit they are dominant, they are deep, and they are fast, where they've been hurt a little bit in 2 games where they've given up more than 20 points, over 700 yards of passing rendered in those 2 football games. We can get after them quick. We can't allow LSU to know what we're doing. We have to stay unpredictable. We have to throw early, lead with the pass. We do that, we can put some points on the board.
Loran, 1 week ago, an emotional and decisive win over arch rival Georgia Tech. Takes a lot to get a team up. Do the Dogs have anything left in the tank today?
No question about it. I visited at a distance, watched the players this morning at the hotel, the Renaissance out at the airport. You can see the great anticipation on their faces. They are ready to play this game. The only thing, and I don't think it necessarily should be overwhelming, is that in playing Georgia Tech with that wishbone offense, didn't help the team prepare for this game. They couldn't look ahead. They couldn't work on things that they would normally work on. They had to get ready for that wishbone offense or that option offense. I really think they are really excited about playing in this game, and they talked this week about the St. Louis Cardinals. If you get there, anything can happen.
Beautiful. I like that. All right. Thank you, Lauren, Scott, Eric, the studio host and producer of the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. That's Cabell Philpott. Our engineer here at the Georgia Dome is Charles Youngs. The weather, well, it's 72 degrees and perfect, and it's going to be that way all day today for our game here in the Dome. We kick at 4:10. Thanks for tuning in. 2 minutes from now, Eric Zier shares his desires for the Dogs on the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
Calling the signals, the play clock down to 3. Now it's at 2. There's the snap. Handoff and a reverse to Malcolm Mitchell. He's got running room. Mitchell to the 30, 25, 20. Murray makes a block, and Mitchell down to the 10-yard line. Aaron Murray leading the way with a block for the freshman.
The freshman Malcolm Mitchell. The triumph over Tech is in the rear view mirror. Today, our Bulldogs play for the SEC title here at the Georgia Dome. Welcome back to the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. Time now for Eric Zier's desires. Eric, give me 3 steps. Give me 3 steps, buddy. Victory for the Dogs.
Well, Hondo, starting off, we've got to put the football in the hands of Aaron Murray and get it out and distribute that ball to all of our talented wide receivers. I'd like to see 40 attempts out of Aaron Murray today. Oregon and West Virginia, the 2 most explosive outputs of offense against this LSU defense. They threw the ball. Oregon threw the football 54 times. For 240 yards. West Virginia completed 38 out of 65 for 463 yards in the air. That's over 700 yards throwing the football. We've got a better quarterback and a better passing game than both of those teams. Need to see him throw it. On the defensive side of the ball, hold LSU to under 160 yards on the ground. Where LSU in their 2 games where they've been held under 20 points this year against Mississippi State and Alabama, both games held under 160 yards. The only time that's happened all year. If that happens, we put the football in the hands of Jordan Jefferson. He can't beat us alone without a running game to go with it. And then finally, zero turnovers. This LSU team leads the nation in turnover margin. They forced 27 turnovers. Those turnovers 18 times have led to points, 15 of which were touchdowns. We can't give this offense additional shots by giving them the football. We can't lose possessions because we're turning it over.
All right. Thank you, Eric Zier, with his desires for you. Now, Lauren Smith. Lauren.
Thank you, Neil. We welcome to the broadcast Bill Hancock, the first executive director of the Bowl Championship Series. Bill, we're happy to have you. There's, I think, an interesting situation with the BCS. BCS gets beat up on worse than a presidential candidate, but it seems to be working. Give us a state of the BCS series at this point.
Well, hey, Loran, thank you for having me on, and it is working. The purpose is to match the top two teams in the bowl game, and it's done that 13 times in 13 years by our standards, and 10 and 13 by the AP standards. So it's doing its job. We recognize it's controversial, but it's been great for college football.
The reasons you see in your position that this is better than going to a playoff?
Well, there's three of them, really. The first one is it does give us the match of 1 and 2 that we never had before, guaranteed matchup of 1 and 2. And the second one is it really has given us the best regular season in sports. In college football, we have decided that the regular season should be what it's all about, not about some tournament at the end of the season. And good grief, I understand that that's done in other sports, of course. As you know, I used to be director of the Final Four, so I totally get it for that. But this gives us a wonderful regular season, meaningful, compelling, a season that you have to tune in for every week or you're going to miss something. And that would be lost if there was a tournament. And the third thing is that the bowl experience for the athlete is something to fight for and to preserve. We end the season with a celebration. And, yeah, no other sport does it, and that's fine for the other sports. What's good for them is what's good for them, but what we're doing is best for the student athlete.
Bill, I think the pragmatic view, the objective view, the inevitable, people will say in conversation, the playoff will come. What would it take to get the presidents to support a playoff plan?
I don't hear any talk, I don't sense any groundswell for a change to some kind of a big tournament at the end of the season. It would take almost unanimous support by the president, and I just don't see. I don't hear a lot of folks wanting to blow up the bowls and go to a playoff.
Bill, I certainly am a BCS advocate. I'm happy with the way it is, but there is one view out there that I hear bandied about that eventually we'll go to 4 super conferences, and the winner of those 4 conferences could play 2 rounds. The 4 teams meet, then it becomes 2. Is that a possibility as you look down into the future?
I've heard that talk, Loran, and I don't buy it. The fact is that the presidents who don't go into the playoff at this point are still going to have that same position no matter how many teams are in their conferences. There's a lot of wishful thinking in this on the partisan folks in the media, and frankly, I think that one is a part of the wishful thinking.
Well, I think it's probably worthy to say it's not broke right now, so let's leave it alone. I think you're doing a good job representing the BCS. We're ready to give you a raise. We don't want to give you a ticket out of town. Thank you so much for joining us. Bill Hancock.
Thank you, Lauren.
All right, thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, our old friend Bill Hancock and Lauren Smith. And reminder for you to visit the UGA bookstore to pick up your official 2011 Student Spirit shirt and help UGA Student Affairs support their charities. It's the SEC Championship win today, and the Dogs are in the Sugar Bowl. People are calling it David versus Goliath. Well, Eric Zier returns shortly to tell us what kind of slingshots our offense will use to beat number 1 LSU. You're dialed to the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
Let's take flight on a trip around the SEC piloted by AirTran Airways. Go, there's nothing stopping you. Once again, inside the IMG Network studios, here's Capo Philpott.
Georgia and LSU getting set to battle at the Georgia Dome for the SEC Championship. Kickoff set for 4 o'clock this afternoon. We turn our attention to the Charter on-demand scoreboard. One game in progress. Conference USA Championship game down at Robertson Stadium in Houston. 6th-ranked Cougars taking on number 24, Southern Miss, and the pressure being felt by Houston.
Davis takes a snap, drops to throw, fires up the field. That one caught by Ballantyne, breaks a tackle, touchdown Southern Miss. Ballantyne broke a tackle around the 5-yard line and takes it in, and the Golden Eagles take the early lead, 6-0 on Houston, with 1:09 to go here in the opening quarter.
That was a huge play right there for the Golden Eagles, obviously.
John Cox on the Southern Miss IMG Sports Network. The Golden Eagles up 14-0 on Houston, 10-14 to go until halftime. The Cougars 54 total yards, 0 of 5 on third down for that vaunted offense. And lots of problems going on down in Houston for the 12-0 Cougars. They are feeling the pressure, that's for sure. We're going to send it back down to the Georgia Dome to Neil Hondo Williamson. And, you know, pressure can be a heck of a thing for a team riding a big wave, can't it, Neil?
Yeah, it sure can, Cab. In fact, Kevin Butler said to me last week he was glad that LSU beat Arkansas because he said, you know, with every game you win when you're undefeated, that just increases the loss you're going to lose the next one, which really isn't true because of mutual exclusivity and all that. But I understood what he said. Thanks, Cab. Eric Zier, your first SEC game was against LSU. What do you remember from that clash in Sanford Stadium back in 1991?
Well, I'll tell you what, long time ago now, but, I remember just the anticipation going into that football game, being the first SEC game that I had ever played in Sanford Stadium, and we had a packed house, and we ended up winning that football game. But the biggest memory I carry from that, just the nerves that I had going into that football game, playing a team with the tradition like LSU. LSU at that time nowhere close to the kind of football team that they have now. So we handled that game pretty easily and executed very well. But just tremendously nervous for me going into that first SEC battle.
How many plays until you said, "Oh, I can play with these guys"?
It was a couple of series in. At that time, I was splitting time with Greg Talley. I actually came in. Greg Talley started the football game and did a great job. I came in a couple of series in is really when I started to feel like, you know what, I can belong at this level and play at this level, at least at an acceptable level, but can absolutely come out here and compete. So it took a couple of series to get into the flow and get into the rhythm, but standing on the sideline there throughout that first quarter and parts of the second quarter, a lot of nerves turning in my stomach at that time.
I remember Larry Bird, who one of his best friends with the Celtics through the years was Rick Roby, the guy who had played on the 78 Kentucky team that won the national championship. And Bird said he wasn't sure how he was going to do in the NBA. He goes, till I showed up in my first practice, Roby was guarding me. And I was like, oh, I can play with these guys. He had to get in the dig on his friend. Well, Eric had a great SEC debut. He was 11 for 20 passing for 168 yards. Greg Talley also passed for about 142 yards, making you guys the first quarterback tandem for Georgia to throw for 100 yards each in a game since 1968. 305 total yards passing that day, 31-10 win over LSU. Are you ready to tell us how in heaven's name will Georgia's offense ever move a yard against this LSU D?
Can't wait.
All right. That's good. That's next. How to beat the nation's top-rated team. Eric Zier and Aaron Murray and more in 2 minutes. Dogs fans, don't forget to tune in after the game to BB&T Dog Talk with Tony Schiavone and Kevin Butler, sponsored by the Hotel Indigo in downtown Athens on the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
First and 10, Georgia from the 15. Play fake, pump fake, throw to the corner. He's open. He's just got to catch it, and he does. And he gets his feet in. That's a touchdown. Chris Conley, the score. Freshman from Dallas. Boy, was he open.
I think our offense is very talented, but there's no doubt in our mind that this is going to be a challenge, and it's something that we look forward to because this is the kind of game that, you come to Georgia to play in, a game where you're going to be challenged, a game where things aren't handed to you, a game where you're going to have to work and take things for yourself.
That is one impressive young man right there. Bulldogs freshman receiver Chris Conley, first with the TD catch against Tech last week, then commenting on playing against the exalted defense of top-ranked LSU in today's SEC title game. Welcome back to the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. Eric Zier, how much of a mental hurdle is it for a team to overcome while spending a week looking at tape of a spectacular defense like LSU?
Well, I'll tell you what, Hondo, I think that mental hurdle is reserved for those outside of that locker room and outside of those meeting rooms. When you're preparing for a game and you're locked in and on a run like the Georgia Bulldogs are on right now, 10 wins in a row, playing at an exceptionally high level, when you start watching tape, you get shielded a little bit from all of the hype and all of the media, and you start looking at matchups, you start looking at your schemes, and then how are we going to go execute that? And through all of that film study, you're trying to identify keys and ways to be successful, and how do you go out there and execute to win the football game. You're not worried about what everybody else is saying outside of those rooms. That's for all of us to talk about, and for us to worry about. What they're worried about right now is how do we win, and watching tape and getting prepared actually removes that mental hurdle completely, and I think that's what this team's going to do when they come out here, be locked in on what we have to do to be successful.
Great answer. Sound, please.
Their front is pretty awesome. I mean, they have a lot of guys depth-wise there's no drop-off in how well they play. Their starting front four is great as well. So I know we're going to have a tough battle on Saturday.
That's Georgia guard Chris Burnett talking about the Tigers' D-line. It features 3 players, Z, who have been voted SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week this year.
Yeah, defensive tackle Benny Logan, 5 tackles for loss, a couple of sacks. Defensive ends Sam Montgomery and Burkevia Mingo, 16 sacks between the two of them. This starting defensive line, 38 tackles for loss. And 20 sacks between those starters, and they go deep as well. No doubt it's going to be a challenge. And on the offensive side of the ball, you've got to keep these guys guessing and moving. If you ever get into predictable situations with a defensive line as talented, as fast, and as deep as this defensive line that we're going to be facing against LSU, that's where you really put yourself at a disadvantage. If we can come out in this football game, lead with the pass, be aggressive, and take the fight to them, it puts us in a much better situation. Conversely, you don't want to be in those third and long situations today where they can pin their ears back and come, because they're going to get to you, and they're going to get to you often.
All right, sound, please.
I know he's excited for it. He's played well in all of our big games this year, so I'm not too scared about him going out there and not being ready.
Aaron Murray seems confident that Isaiah Crowell will be ready to go today. How critical is Crowell's presence to the odds of a Bulldogs victory?
Well, in any game that you play, especially games like this, everyone is critical. And obviously you want Isaiah on the football field. This team's been through enough adversity and had enough guys step into roles maybe before they were quite ready to step in, or guys that we didn't expect to see to play. They've all played well. This team has got confidence whether Isaiah's on the field or not. You'd like to have him, but I believe that the mindset of this football team is we can win with whoever's back there toting the rock. If it's Isaiah, that's great. It helps us. It's critical that he's there because he does make us better. If he's not there, the mental toughness is in place, and they've done it before without him, and they can do it again today.
All right, very good. Sound, please.
We've been practicing, we have turf fields too, so we've been practicing on turf for the past 3 or 4 weeks, actually. So when it comes to being adjusted to how fast the routes are running and things like that, I think we'll be fine just because we've been practicing on it.
That's Aaron Murray, and the Bulldogs will take on a speedy LSU team on the turf of the Georgia Dome today. Guys now practice enough and they've played enough on turf that it really shouldn't be a factor. I just spent some time on the field. When we played back here in September, the turf was extremely slippery, and we had a hard time keeping our feet. We lost our feet, a lot of slips in that football game. The turf feels like it's in much better shape today. Our guys are going to be ready to play on it, and both teams have to go. Both teams have got speed. I think it's going to be a minimal factor.
All right, Z. We'll come back and talk to you more in just a bit. Thank you very much. Scott Howard and Eric Zier bring you the play-by-play and analysis of 13th-ranked Georgia versus number 1 LSU today. Our kickoff time is 4:10. Coach Mark Richt joins us in about 45 minutes on the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. Stay with us. This is the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
2nd and 10 for Tech. Washington wants to pass. Jenkins, he's going to eat him. He dropped him back at the 11-yard line. John Jenkins looked like a giant grizzly bear coming in there. He had those arms raised up, and he just mauled Tevin Washington. They'll spot it back on the 14-yard line.
What a great call by our Scott Howard. Scott and Eric with the play-by-play of the SEC title game coming up today. We're going to get you there on the Metro PCS Tailgate Show right now. Here's Loran Smith.
Thank you, Neil. And joining us is Burt Jones, who's here for the game. He was a big star in Georgia's defeat of Arkansas, December the 7th, 2002, 30-3. And Burt, you almost scored on the first play. It was Georgia's first opportunity with the ball. DeCorey Bryant blocked the punt. I think it was Arkansas's first series, and you got the ball and almost scored. You were fighting hard to get in the end zone. How close did you come to scoring?
I think I finally got tripped up somewhere around the 1-yard line, actually. But it was a great moment. It was the first time Georgia had been in the SEC championship in 20 years, and so we were very excited, and hopefully today this version of the SEC team Georgia team can start fast like we did back in 2002.
Well, what was the attitude of the Georgia team? Georgia was favored, having a good year, but I don't know how many people would have thought that Georgia would dominate the game as it did. What were the factors that enabled Georgia to play so well?
I think. Georgia. We had a good team that year. We were 13-1, finished number 3 in the country, and the only loss, of course, coming to Florida. And we were favored against Arkansas, but Arkansas was a team that was very dangerous. I don't know if you remember, but had Matt Jones, and they were always notorious for making big comebacks and having close, tight games. But the thing that started it off was that block punt to start the game off with. They went 3 and out, and we called a block punt, and DeCorey Bryant did a great job of blocking the kick, and we started so fast, and the crowd was so loud that night and so into it that Arkansas, before Arkansas could turn around, Georgia was up 30-0, and I think that's that just before they could blink, we were already up a few scores on them. So that was probably where you can credit us, that team being able to be so dominant in that particular game. Just everything fell in line for us that night.
I guess as Burt Jones, a star of the Georgia defeat of Arkansas in 2002, you were a game captain. How rewarding was that?
Oh, it was great. Being a former walk-on, I think you even phrased it, coming from the doghouse to the penthouse. In one of your columns you wrote one time, it was a great feeling. Anytime you're voted by your peers and your coaches to be one of the team leaders, team captains, it's a great honor, one that you never forget, and it's just a real accomplishment that it just they basically everyone else saw with the hard work that you were doing and trying to accomplish your own personal goals, and everybody took notice of that. So it was a big honor.
Well, we thought it was a big honor, all of us, because we knew how much you put into the game. We thank you for joining us. John Fabris always thought you were the Class A first exhibit on how a walk-on can go and play with heart, soul, dedication, work, and flourish in college football. Thank you, Neil.
All right. Thank you, Lauren. Great to hear from our old friend Burt Jones. Charter On Demand scoreboard mid-second period. And Southern Miss is leading Houston 14-7. Coming up, Scott Howard rejoins us to tell what the Georgia coaches are saying. It's the Bulldogs versus the Bayou Bengals. We tee it up at 4:10 here on the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
In trouble. Got a block behind him. Going to throw and a run complete to the 25, to the 30. Lindsey's got 35, 40. Lindsey's got...
He got the block. Great protection. The rest is Bulldogs history. To protect my home and family, I trust Ackerman Security Systems. Neil Hondo Williamson here. Ackerman features a monthly fee of only $18.95 with no charge for switching from your current provider. Call Ackerman to get the protection you need. 770-552-1111. Ackerman Security Systems, the official security provider of the Bulldog Nation.
The Bulldogs are about to take the field, and great deals are lining up at Flint Equipment, your local construction, forestry, and CWP John Deere dealer. An industry leader in commercial worksite products, we have a full line of compact tractor and skid steer loaders, and all the attachments to make your crew as versatile as ever. Flint Equipment. If John Deere makes it, we rent, sell, finance, insure, service, and provide parts for it all over the Southeast. Stop by any of our 20 locations or visit online at flintequipco.com. See you after the game.
The Metro PCS Tailgate Show continues right now with a check of the Charter On Demand Top 25 scoreboard. Inside the IMG Network Studios, here's Cabell Philpott.
Getting you set for the SEC Championship game. Georgia and LSU coming up at 4 o'clock this afternoon. We look at the Charter On Demand scoreboard. How scores change. Conference USA Championship. Neil just updated you. We'll update you again. Southern Miss now 21-14 on Houston. At the 12-minute mark of the second quarter, Houston had 54 total yards. Now at the 5-minute mark, they have 182. This offense certainly can explode, but Southern Miss doing everything that it can to hold off Case Keenum and the Cougars. Again, 21-14. Golden Eagles up 4:17 to go until halftime. A little bit later on this evening, some other conference championship games. The ACC championship at Bank of America Stadium. Virginia Tech taking on Clemson. Hokies have won their last 14 games in the state of North Carolina. Clemson lost 3 of their last 4 games. Big Ten football championship in Indianapolis. An 8-17 kick. Wisconsin and Michigan State getting together. Sparty trying for its first Rose Bowl appearance since 1988. Wisconsin lost to TCU in Pasadena last January. Finally, the other big game in the Big 12, basically the Big 12 championship game, even though that's defunct now. 8 o'clock kick, Boone Pickens Stadium. Oklahoma and Oklahoma State renew their Bedlam rivalry. Cowboys in position of putting their fate in the hands of the voters and computers because of a 37-31 double overtime loss at Iowa State in their last contest back on November the 18th. With that all said and done, the eyes of the South focus on Atlanta. We now put our focus back on Neil Hondo Williamson. Neil?
All right, thank you, Cab. That's a great job there, buddy. Over the past 10 seasons, the 2 teams with the best records in the SEC are LSU and Georgia. Plus, over this decade, only the Tigers and Bulldogs have earned 4 berths each in the SEC championship game. Not Alabama, not Florida, not Tennessee, Auburn, or Arkansas. LSU and Georgia. The Dogs and the Tigers meet for all the marbles for the 3rd time in 9 years today, just after 4 o'clock. I'd like to remind you that Ackerman Security Systems is the official security provider of the Bulldog Nation, just $18.95 per month. We use it at the Williamsons' house. We love Ackerman Security. Call Ackerman at 770-552-1111. Standing by, waiting to share his inside scoop from talking to the UGA coaching staff this week, is the voice of the Bulldogs, Scott Howard. This is the Metro PCS Tailgate Show on the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
The Metro PCS Tailgate Show continues with this Bulldog Point of Pride, presented by Plumbers, Pipefitters, and Technicians Local Union 72, paving the way today for a greener tomorrow. For the 411 on the University of Georgia, here's Steve Bell.
Bulldog fans, the University of Georgia continues as one of America's best universities. In rankings released by U.S. News and World Report in their 2012 ranking of the nation's best colleges, UGA places 23rd among all public universities. Each year, the publication ranks some 1,600 colleges and universities. The University of Georgia is one of America's best universities. And that's another Bulldog point of pride.
Here's the snap. A little trouble with it. The hold put down by Butler. The kick is no good. Wobbly and to the left. The snap was a little bit behind Drew Butler, but wait a minute. Is there a flag down? They called a time? They called a time.
Timeout was called by Georgia Tech. That's their second timeout of the half.
Holy smokes.
The clock operator, please reset the game clock.
Oh, my goodness.
9 seconds.
A reprieve.
Scott Howard with we've seen some strange plays, my friends. You and I over more than 3 decades of watching Georgia football. That one kind of goes up there a little bit with Reggie Ball throwing the pass away on 4th down.
And they both happen to the same organization.
Jeez, I didn't even think of that. Now I feel embarrassed that I said that about Tech. All right, anyway, thanks for tuning in to the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. Thanks to the people in Atlanta who jumped away from us. We didn't know that you were going to jump away when you did, but let's go for a little sound, please.
And we're not intimidated, but like you said, we have achieved some of our goals. I mean, just to be able to go 10 straight has been great. Winning the East has been great, but I mean, one of our other main goals was to get back to the Dome and win that championship as well.
Georgia guard Chris Burnett. And Scott, who have the coaches pointed out as being the leaders on this team while the Dogs have rallied from being 0-2 at the start to 10 consecutive wins?
Well, we heard Aaron Murray earlier in the broadcast referring to the leaders, and he didn't even include himself in that bunch. And I think it's usually the seniors. There may be an underclassman or two here and there, but guys like Barefoot Ben Jones and Brandon Boykin are probably two of the most vocal leaders, and Avery Jones, Orson Charles, guys like that the rest of these team are looking up to, and they really listen to these guys.
I've heard plenty of gentlemanly respect from the Bulldogs players this week talking about LSU, but our guys are not playing the David versus Goliath card.
No, they're not. In fact, Sanders Cummings told reporters earlier this week that Georgia's defense is equal to that of LSU. And I think as a defensive player, that's what you have to believe. That's what Georgia has to believe if they want to win this football game, that they are as good as their opponent. They can't go into a game being intimidated and being frightened. You have to feel that you're as good as the competition. And I think that's how Georgia is approaching this game today.
All right, now give us the injury report, Scott, specifically what to expect from the running back position today.
Question mark. I honestly do not know because the head coach would not tell me. I talked to a lot of people. He would not talk about the running back situation. I know that guys are on the dress roster, but that doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah.
Isaiah Crowell was at practice. He was in a non-contact jersey some of the time. That's about it. I think it's going to be a crapshoot today as to who we see.
All right, you know why he wouldn't tell you, right? Because he knew I was going to ask you.
Well, here's what he said. I can give you an exact quote. I was talking to him this week, and I said, is Richard going to play, Richard Samuel, because I knew they'd kind of targeted this game for his comeback.
Right.
And his response was, this was off the air. I mean, I wasn't talking to him with a microphone in front. I'm just talking.
Yeah.
He looked right at me and said, I'm not going to talk about the running backs today. He goes, I like you, but it's not personal. I'm just not going to talk about the running backs anymore.
Right.
I said, okay, you won't even tell me so we can put him on our spotting board. The same answer. I'm not going to talk about the running backs. I like you. It's not personal. And he just kept going back to that one. So I didn't, beyond that, I wasn't going to push it anymore. And that's kind of where we stood.
All right, very good. How about D'Angelo Tyson?
D'Angelo Tyson he may be a game time decision. I think he took treatment this week, and they want him to go if he's able to, and he is here. But it's going to be probably how he does in warm-ups and see how much flexibility and movement he has in that ankle.
All right, beautiful. Thank you, Scott. Scott Howard, the voice of the Dogs, returns with Coach Mark Richt within the next 20 minutes or so. Bulldog fans, GeorgiaDogs.com is your first and best source for Bulldogs news, scores, highlights, interviews, and behind-the-scenes video. You can also buy authentic Dogs gear in the G-Shop or bid against other Bulldog fans in our exclusive online auctions. Visit GeorgiaDogs.com today. Keep it tuned to the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
The Metro PCS Tailgate Show continues with this Bulldog Point of Pride, presented by Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, and Technicians Local Union 72, paving the way today for a greener tomorrow. For the 411 on the University of Georgia, here's Steve Bell.
Hey, Dog fans, did you know your University of Georgia ranks 8th in graduation rates among America's largest public universities? That's right. Every year, UGA's freshman classes post record-breaking grades and board scores. But the really good news is they graduate at a very high rate as well. In fact, a recent study by the university's Institutional Research Office ranked UGA's 6-year graduation rate 8th among America's biggest and best public universities. And that's another Bulldog Point of Pride.
Welcome back to the Tailgate Show. We're joined by Georgia's Director of Athletics, Greg McGarity. Greg, this is a great position for this program, the school to be in. Talk a little bit about that and your view on what it took to get here.
Well, it's where everybody in the SEC wants to be the first weekend in December is in the Georgia Dome, and we're here today. Going against really a great team in LSU. Everybody knows what they're capable of doing. I know our team feels confident in their abilities to compete and compete really well. So we'll see how things turn out here in a couple of hours. But the journey here, it's been said many times after going 0-2, did people envision going 10-2? And probably a lot of people thought that'd be a tough road to hoe. But I think I know that our players and our coaches took each task 1 week at a time. Each opponent didn't get ahead of themselves. I think they all knew what they were capable of doing. But it's one of those situations, if you look too far ahead, you're going to stump your toe and maybe not take care of things that you can control, which is your opponent that Saturday. So it's a credit to everyone for not looking too far down the road, but just taking care of things 1 week at a time. And winning 10 games in a row is very, very difficult to do in college football nowadays. But it's a job well done, and I know there's a lot of unfinished business out there, and it gets started today.
With the SEC championship and the bowl game aside, how would you grade this team?
Well, it's interesting timing for that question because final exams start at the University of Georgia next week. So I would equate that this situation similar to that. I mean, we've got final exams coming up. I think we're entering our final exams with A's or high B pluses, whatever you want to say as far as a grade, and we've got 2 more games this year to get our final grade. So one thing we've done all year is we've just talked about week to week, and we really hadn't lost our focus on that. But I think it's a job well done. But I think if you ask these players if they're resting on their laurels or they're satisfied with where they are right now, I think they would all say, there's more work to be done. And I don't think you really are ever completely satisfied. There's always something that you don't quite reach in your set of goals. And I think at the end of the day, we're going to reach. We reached our first goal, getting to Atlanta. Second goal is to win the SEC championship, and we've got a shot at that. So you certainly can't compete for the championship unless you're in Atlanta. So we're here today, and but we've got 2 final exams coming up today, and then the bowl game.
Well, if the Bulldogs do win today, then we'll end up in the Sugar Bowl. Is there any other bowl scuttlebutt that you're able to catch in case it doesn't go our way?
Well, I think that just from what I'm hearing is that South Carolina, Georgia, and Arkansas are in the mix for Dallas, Orlando, and Tampa. And where the fallout will be, I'm not really sure where that will be, but I do think the University of Georgia will be in one of those 3 bowls. So we'll just have to wait and see until Sunday night to find out exactly where we're going. And like you said earlier, we have an opportunity to go to New Orleans, and we're hoping that becomes a reality, and so does LSU. But regardless, we'll be playing on a bowl game, January 1 or later bowl game this year.
All right, that's Georgia's Director of Athletics, Greg McGarity. Hondo, we'll send it back to you for more of the Tailgate Show.
All right, thank you, Scott. This segment is powered by Toyota. Moving forward, Georgia and LSU today at 4:10. If your blood runs red and black, don't touch that dial. Still to come, Coach Richt is coming up in less than 10 minutes, and we'll also get the gang together and make our picks for the week. This is the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
Tech runs a man in motion. That's Roddy Jones. Tevin Washington drops back to pass. He will throw, and it's intercepted. Intercepted, a diving catch. Sean Williams picked it off right in front of the man. Then he spiked the ball.
Rocking and rolling at historic Grant Field 1 week ago. Today we are 1.3 miles south of Tech for the SEC championship game between our beloved Bulldogs and the Bayou Bengals of LSU. Ours is not the only game on the docket today, though, and it's time for our picks. And Scott Howard is up in the booth, and Eric and Loran are down here on the field with me at the Georgia Dome. And, guys, let's start with 10th-ranked Oklahoma at number 3, Oklahoma State. Will the Cowboys beat the Sooners by more than 3 points, Eric?
Boy, you know what? Oklahoma State's been on a great run. I don't think they win the football game today, not just by 3 points. I like the Sooners over the Cowboys today.
Lauren?
Oh, boy, you'd think if Oklahoma State could ever beat Oklahoma, it'd be this year. But I somehow or other, I'm afraid the Sooners are going to win and Boone Pickens are going to quit writing checks.
Despite having 2 weeks to prepare, I don't think that the Cowboys can stop the Sooners. Better defense, better coaching spells upset for Oklahoma. Scott?
It's Bedlam in Stillwater, you know.
Yes, Bedlam in Stillwater.
It's Bedlam for the first time since they ran out of beer at Walmart.
Oh, man.
I don't even know what that means. You know, this might be the year for Oklahoma State. Their coach blossomed into a man at age 40. He's matured well beyond his years since that time, and so has his team. I say yes to Oklahoma State and take the 3.
Scott Howard sitting out there on the island. ACC championship game. Scott, we'll start with you this time. Will 5th-ranked Virginia Tech beat number 20 Clemson by more than 7 points?
I'm going to say yes to that, too. I think Virginia Tech has much more than the Clemson Tigers have to offer. So I'll go with the Hokies and take them by the points.
The Clemson offense versus the Virginia Tech defense is a mismatch. I'm going to go with Tech.
I'm right there with you. Clemson on quite a run to start this football season, really struggling here as of late. I don't think they can match up. I like the Hokies by more than 7.
Me too. That's unanimous. Logan Thomas and Vatek are headed in a different direction than Boyd and Clemson are for sure. All right, Big Ten championship game. Loran Smith, can 13th-ranked Michigan State stay within 10 points of number 15 Wisconsin?
Ooh, that's a pretty tough one. I believe that it'll be difficult for them to do that. Wisconsin is probably the better team. Physically, I'm going to say no.
Scott Howard?
I'm going to say yes. I think Michigan State keeps it close to the cheese graters this time. I don't know if they win the game, but I think they keep it close.
I agree with that. I think Michigan State does enough to get inside that 10-point window.
Yeah, me too. And that's not just because my mom went to Michigan State.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's the only reason.
Well, it's because my niece is the first trumpet in their band.
Oh, that's the reason.
Yes, that's the reason. Okay, good.
Family ties are strong.
All right, guys, that's right, and thank you. Those are our picks, folks. Coach Mark Richt is standing by, and
he's not talking about the running backs.
He's not talking about the running backs, that's for sure. That's for sure. But Mrs. Richt is down here. She's about 2 feet away from me, and maybe we can get Catherine to talk about the running backs for us instead. Don't forget to stay tuned after every game for more football programming. Presented by the Hotel Indigo in downtown Athens. It's Dog Talk tonight with Tony Schiavone and Kevin Butler from right here in the Georgia Dome. This is the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
Tennessee's 4th down, 1.5. We're coming up the middle. We blocked it. It's over here by the goal line.
Boy!
Love beating Tennessee because their protection broke down. Don't let that happen to you at home. This is Neil Hondo Williamson for Ackerman Security Systems. Ackerman protects my home and family for only $18.95 per month. $18.95 with no charge to switch to Ackerman. Call 770-552-1111. 770-552-1111. Ackerman Security Systems, the official security provider of the Bulldog Nation.
It's time to take a look at today's opponent with Bulldog head coach Mark Richt. It's brought to you by AirTran Airways. Go. There's nothing stopping you. Coach, the SEC championship game, Georgia and LSU. The Bengal Tigers come in ranked number 1 in the country. What else can you tell us that we don't already know about these guys?
Well, not much. I mean, nowadays, if you're a college football fan and you watch ESPN and all the games and all the highlights, you've seen enough of LSU by now, and for good reason. Great football team, and that's probably the thing that's. People ask me what's most impressive about them, and really the team is what's most impressive. Some teams you say it's offense, defense, special teams. You might say it's a certain player or whatever, but with them, they're just so solid across the board and so fast and physical. And play the game the way it ought to be played. They're just doing a really good job there. Coach Miles has got them going.
You talk a little bit about their rushing attack. We'll talk offense first, and they've got a lot of guys that carry the football.
They do. They've got up to 4 guys that have carried the ball and carried it well. You've got number 11, Ware, number 42, Ford, number 4, Blue, number 27, Hilliard, who was a fullback to start out the year. All those guys are big, strong, bruising type runners, guys that play, behind their pads well, meaning that, when they get to the end of the run, they knock people back and do a good job of securing the ball. They're very impressive in the turnover ratio. They're plus 19, number 1 in the nation, and I think we may have gotten more turnovers than they have, but they don't turn it over. They do a good job of wrapping up that ball.
And the quarterback situation has changed since about around the halfway point of the season, maybe a little bit beyond there. They're using Jordan Jefferson a lot more, and he brings a bit of a different look to their offense too, because he's more of a runner than Jared Lee is.
Right, very big, physical kid, 6'5", 220 at least, and does have the running skills to go along with his passing skills, and they take advantage of that by running some option football. And when you're running option football, it's something that you've got to work on. You spend time on it, and it probably discourages you from running certain types of coverages. Also, people ask me, well, how much do they do it? And I think enough to make you work on it, and enough that if you don't defend it well, they'll do it a bunch. And so we got to make sure we can defend that.
How about defensively? I'm sure you've had a chance to look at their defense a lot this week.
Oh, yeah. I've spent more time probably watching their defense than their offense. But, again, just a great-looking team. They always dress out nice. They are very athletic. Not any big fat guys over there. They're all tall and lean and muscular, and they get after it. They play very, very hard. People probably talk about their defensive backs more than anything, and for good reason. They've got 2 young men that are really All-American candidates. Claiborne, number 17, more of a traditional, long, lean cover guy who's very technically sound. And then you got this other young man named Matthew, number 7, who's not a prototypical size. He's 5'9", about 175 pounds. And he's not maybe as smooth of a technician, but he's tenacious, and he's a guy he's the one that's been, stripping the ball out, recovering fumbles, taking it to the house. He takes a punt safe situation and returns it for a touchdown against Arkansas. He's just a guy that plays maybe as hard or harder than anybody I've seen in a while.
How do they use their secondary in the run game? Most of their leading tacklers are in the secondary.
Right. A lot of things are designed to funnel things to the unblocked safeties, and a lot of times their corners become their support people also. There's a lot of different ways to get that 8th man in the box, and they use every one of those guys to do it in different situations. And so it's kind of hard to know who it's going to be, but when they do get there, they make the tackles. They put their face on you, they wrap you up, and they get you to the ground. They're not. There's not many guys ducking and trying to get out of the way of a back coming through there. They're gonna hit you right in the mouth.
It's Georgia and LSU coming up today here in the Georgia Dome in the SEC Championship. We'll have more with Georgia head coach Mark Richt a little bit later on in the Tailgate Show.
Murray back into the shotgun. He stands just outside the Tech 20. Ball is on the 15. Murray with time, throws it over the middle. Bennett on a crossing route. Bennett to the 10, Bennett to the 5, in the corner, touchdown! Michael Bennett ran a crossing route from right to left. They couldn't catch him. Just a little easy, slow wobbler out of the hands of Aaron Murray, and Bennett gets to the far corner for the first score of the ball game.
Thanks for making the Metro PCS Tailgate Show part of your Saturday afternoon. We're back here live in the Georgia Dome, standing down on the field. The Georgia team has arrived. Players are walking around, getting their feel for the field. And Coach Mark Richt standing back here talking to his wife, Catherine, the water girl. And the gates have opened, so people are coming in, and they're all trying to get pictures of Catherine and Mark together. But right now, we got a couple of guys who Loran Smith's going to talk to. You want to hear from these guys, Loran?
But first, let's recognize the Pride America overachiever this week. That's Corey Campbell, a native of Hepzibah. Corey has worked his way into the special teams in his redshirt freshman year. Corey has played 10 games, recording tackles against New Mexico State, Vandy, and Mississippi State. Lining up as a scout team member this year, Corey has helped the Bulldogs win 10 straight, which is their longest win streak since the 1982 season. Congratulations to Corey Campbell from John Addison and all our good friends at Pride America. Mike McDonald and Nick Jones, two bright young men who could succeed, I think, in most any profession, but they have chosen coaching. I don't know how long they're going to stay on this coaching train. Graduate school is graduate work is being completed, but start with you, Nick. You played at Georgia. Everybody on the coaching staff has high remarks for you. You make high marks in their minds, not only for your knowledge, but because of your good demeanor. You have a coach's calmness about you. What's your future? Are you going to be in coaching?
Oh, most definitely. I've been fortunate to actually step out and to, experience the corporate America, the day-to-day work atmosphere, and to be in a coaching, I think I really truly found my passion for life, and I really truly found something that I want to do for a very long time.
And what is it about the offense this week? Can they block that tough defensive unit from LSU?
I tell you what, it's going to be a great challenge for us. When you're a competitor, I think that you're always looking for that next challenge, that next opportunity to show what you have as a unit. And I think that LSU offers that opportunity, and we relish that moment, and we're looking forward to a great game today.
Mike McDonald, you did not play at Georgia, but you've been around a long time, 3 years, in the vicinity of 3 years anyway. What about the defense? The defensive unit is facing a tough LSU team. What has Coach Grantham got planned for the game today?
Well, first, LSU prides themselves on running the football, and they want to challenge you for 60 minutes up front with their four good tailbacks. So that's been our main focus all week, is be able to put our guys in a position to go make plays. And we believe in our guys to stop the run and be physical and answer that challenge. And then really just trying to get them to third down situations. They haven't had third and long except maybe a handful of plays this entire season. So that's really our goal right now, is to stop the run on first and second down and then put them in a position on third down where we can be more aggressive.
You've worked with Todd Grantham for over 2 years. What's unique? What's special about Coach Grantham?
I'd say his passion for the game and his ability to study opponents and put our players in a position to make plays. He realizes our best players and their ability to make plays in certain situations. And every week I'm just kind of pleasantly surprised on his ability to put guys in positions different ways in order for them to succeed most on the field on Saturdays.
What do you do during the week to help the defensive staff prepare for the next opponent?
Well, it's kind of a hodgepodge of responsibilities. My main responsibility is to coach the scout team every day. So they're kind of like my position meetings. Those are my guys, and we try to do the best job possible at producing the best look for our defense. And then in the office, I draw up the game plans for our players that they see every day in the packets they receive.
Quickly, Nick Jones, you work with Will Friend, the very outstanding college player. What's his qualities as an offensive line coach?
I think Coach Friend's greatest quality is that he's a great motivator. I think he does a good job of getting his guys ready to play each week in and week out. And also he tailors it to each individual guy. I think he does a good job of reaching his guys, and I think that he does a good job of preparing them each week.
All right, thank you, Nick Jones, working with the offense. Michael McDonald working with the defense. Neil?
All right, thank you, Loran. Thanks, gentlemen. Good luck today. All right, have some fun. Very good, Loran. Thank you. Coming up in the next 15 minutes, actually in the next 5 minutes, we'll have one of Larry Munson's greatest calls for you, so you want to stick around for that. Loran, talking about 10 wins for the Bulldogs this year, 10 in a row. Did you know that Georgia has won 10 games in a season for the 7th time under Coach Mark Richt, and for the 3rd time in the last 5 seasons. Hey, make sure that you tune in Monday night for the Bulldog Hotline from 8 until 10. You can call or post Facebook questions for Coach Richt. Go to the official Facebook of the Georgia Bulldogs. And new this year in the second hour, it's a bunch of Bulldog All-Stars and one guy who never was. It's Hondo and the All-Stars live from Andretti's in Roswell. We'll take your questions. David Green, Kevin Butler, Daryl DJ Jones, and Junkyard Jeff Lewis. Make sure you tune in for that one Monday night. Coming up next, one of Larry's greatest calls. This is the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. We're live at the Georgia Dome. It's the SEC Championship on the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
First and goal inside the 5. Dogs in the eye. Ken Malcolm is the tail. Murray will throw a fade to the near side. Caught! Touchdown! Tavares King!
What a great catch by Tavares King. Great throw by Aaron Murray last week as the Dogs ripped up on Tech. We're going for 11 in a row and an SEC championship today here at the Georgia Dome. Welcome back to the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. And time now for one of Larry Munson's greatest calls. This from 2005. The Dogs versus LSU right here in the Georgia Dome. Here's Larry.
First down there on the LSU 29.5. Shockley back in a shotgun. 3 wideouts. Shockley backs up again. He's still on the shotgun. Takes it and drops back and looks. And he's going to go. He's got a man wide open. Touchdown in the right corner. Sean Bailey again, this time in the other corner. He caught the ball and 1 foot came down inbounds.
Well, you know, Scott, it's been 6 years. But in some ways, it seems like only a year or two ago that we were sitting there when Sean Bailey got open, not once but twice early in that game, and we stunned the Tigers.
Yeah, and these two games mirror each other a little bit. LSU wasn't the number 1 team that year, but they were the favorite in that ball game, and Georgia came out and punched him in the mouth with 2 touchdown passes to Sean Bailey, a 45-yarder, and then that 29-yarder you just heard from Larry in the first quarter. The Dogs got on top early and ended up winning it by 20. So I wouldn't say it was quite a walk in the park, but it was a pretty tasty piece of cake.
Yeah, well, our friend Jeff Dantzler was talking earlier in the Tailgate Show with Daryl Jones, DJ, about the block punt in that game and the sacks. I just remember us getting in and knocking Jamarcus Russell out of the game.
There's a joke there somewhere, but I'll leave it alone. 5 sacks in the ball game by the Bulldogs. It was, it all came together that day as the Dogs won their 2nd championship under Coach Mark Richt.
Yeah, the joke, I think, was on the Oakland Raiders.
I think you're right.
All right, thanks, Scott. We're looking forward to your play-by-play today.
All right, thank you.
All right, Scott Howard there with us, and he and Eric will have the play-by-play and analysis of the Dogs and the Tigers. Players out here on the field throwing footballs right now. People are starting to make their way in from the parking lots outside the Georgia Dome. And can you beat the pro? Choose more winners than the AJC's Jeff Schultz and win prizes. Go to Jeff's blog on AJC.com and you can sack Schultz. Georgia and LSU coming up as the Dogs try to capture their third SEC title in 10 years. Eric Zier rejoins us shortly to talk about Georgia's defense. That's ahead on the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
Third and goal from the Tech 3. Here's the snap. Murray, three-step drop, looking, throws into the end zone. Touchdown! Tight end Aaron White. He bobbled it. He caught it at his chest, dropped it, caught it around his waist, kept it in there. Touchdown for the Dogs.
As the great Bulldog Buck Bellew has expressed so succinctly, beating Tech, I love it. Another from the pantheon of Georgia legends, Eric Zier, rejoins us in less than 10 minutes. We'll talk defense, but right now, Loran Smith has a guest. Loran.
Delighted to welcome Wes Colley to the broadcast. He's a research scientist at the University of Alabama, Huntsville. He also runs one of the computer ranking polls, one of the 6 used by the BCS in determining the BCS champion eventually. Or the tie does the ratings. Wes, we're happy to have you with us. A lot of people criticize the BCS formula, but as Bill Hancock said on our show a little earlier, we've got it right for the last 13 years. What about the current BCS formula, and what do you think? How good is it? You naturally have a lot to do with it. You influence what goes on.
Well, of course, I guess I'm biased since I'm part of it, but really there has not been a large rankings controversy really since 2001. So, of course, the controversies have been more as the Auburn 2004 situation where you had 3 undefeated teams and there was no way one game was going to sort that out. But that really wasn't a controversy with the rankings per se. So I feel like the formula is done pretty well over the last 10 years or so.
Well, what about the computer rankings versus the human poll? You work on the computer side of it, but how much input should the human votes influence the standings?
Well, the humans are 2/3 of the ranking system, and the computers are 1/3. I feel like the computers at least provide a sanity check. They're quantitative, whereas, of course, the voters are just basing it on what they think. And so we have that quantitative, objective component that I think is necessary in doing something as important as the national championship.
Well, how can you, for example, if you wanted to shade your feelings in any way, you can't do that with a computer, can you?
I cannot. My ranking system is probably the simplest of the ones in the BCS, and it's just pure algebra based on wins and losses only this season. So there's no tradition. There's no, I just like this team. There's no Penn State's usually pretty good. It's just who's won this year, and then it's just algebra. So the input is just wins and losses.
Will Colley, your brother, played at Georgia, lettering in 1988 and 1989. What is Will up to? Is he involved in your work in any way?
Well, he just fed me a Bubba burger here at the tailgate, so he's doing pretty well on my book. But other than that, he's doing great and lives here in Atlanta, and he doesn't get involved directly in the rankings that I do, but we certainly talk a lot about it and talk a lot about college football.
If Alabama and LSU were to play again, and of course Georgia partners are certainly hoping that doesn't happen for obvious reasons, but if that should happen, what is your viewpoint about that coming about?
Well, basically what has to happen to prevent the rematch is Oklahoma State, I think, would have to beat Oklahoma soundly tonight. If that happens, I think it'll be hard to overlook them as a conference champion in the deepest conference in the land, which is the Big 12, to take a non-SEC champion over a Big 12 champion.
Well, We really appreciate you joining us, Wes, giving us an insight into your work, running one of the computer polls used by the BCS and determining the rankings each week. We are happy you're here. We know of your interest in the University of Georgia, so thank you for joining us. And we look forward to catching you at a game in Athens soon. And as we go, Neil, I'd like to say belatedly, congratulations to Jared Wallace, the son of Coach Jeff Wallace, who ran in the Paralympic American Games in Mexico not long ago. Won first place, won the gold medal, but he had the fastest time in the world this year. A beautiful story of a guy who had adversity and fought back, making a great name for himself as a runner.
Lovely story. Thank you, Loran, and congratulations to Jared.
And Georgia fans, G Extra is changing their name to GTV. GTV is a new home for the most online audio-video coverage of your favorite Bulldog sports. GTV brings you live game coverage plus features and highlights. Log on to GeorgiaDogs.com/all access. With GTV, you're a fan no matter where you live.
Eric Zier and DJ Jones, they're standing by to tell us how Georgia's defense will carry the Dogs past top-ranked Louisiana State today. This is the Metro PCS Tailgate Show live from the Georgia Dome. It's the SEC Championship game. Georgia and LSU on the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
Third and 16 for the Yellow Jackets. Throws, intercepted, 25, 20, Gilliard, 15, cuts back, 10, tackled right there at the 10-yard line. Tevin Washington threw it right to him. Gift wrap. Merry Christmas.
Winning the turnover battle today in the SEC Championship game is one of the areas Georgia hopes can propel our Bulldogs to victory. Welcome back to the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. We're joined once again by Eric Zier, and we welcome back to the broadcast another former Bulldog great, Daryl DJ Jones. Men, let's talk a little defense. LSU's bread and butter downhill running.
Those guys are going to try to run it down your throat, you know, and from watching film with these guys, they do a good job of doing it, you know, and they do a really good job doing 4 young, good running backs who will pound the ball down your throat.
There's linebacker Mike Gilliard. Tell us about the Tigers' ambush of running backs, TJ.
It's a full-headed monster, Hondo. I tell you what, it should be illegal, but these guys line up and they pound it at you. Each one of these guys, neither one of them is anything spectacular, but they are productive. 6 touchdowns between each one of them. Now, that's unheard of. We need a couple of tailbacks. So they have 4.
and the lightest guy in that 4-headed monster you just referenced, 215 pounds. Kenny Hilliard coming in at 240 pounds is the heaviest. Just man after man. They come in, they try to wear you down. That running game sets up the throwing game. For us to have a chance today, we've got to limit these guys. They're going to get a lot of carries. We've got to stifle them as much as we can. We hold them under 160 yards. 2 teams have done that this year, and those 2 games they've held the LSU Tigers under 20 points. We've got to do it as well. But boy, what a battle it's going to be for our defense.
All right, Eric, turning now to the quarterback situation. Will we see more than one QB for the Tigers today? And please give us a scouting report on Jordan Jefferson and Jarrett Lee.
Well, we might. Jarrett Lee obviously coming in early on in the year with the Jordan Jefferson suspension where he had to sit out a couple of games. He played well, but Jefferson now has started the last the last 3 games. He's the more athletic of the quarterbacks. He's completing 64% of his passes right now. He can hurt you with his legs as well. 5 touchdowns throwing the football, only 1 interception. We're probably going to see him for the most part in this football game, but Jarrett Lee can come in, and he played well when he had opportunities as well. 14 touchdowns he's thrown on the year, only 3 interceptions, over 1,300 yards throwing the football. If we get into a pure passing situation for LSU, to see some more Jarrett Lee, but I really anticipate Jordan Jefferson is going to be the guy that we see for the majority of this game.
All right, sound please.
Some of the spread stuff that they do, you know, in the passing games and things like that, especially in the receiver room, seeing how their receivers affect their defense, and watching all that film, it's apparent that they are a very, very talented defense, but there are plays to be made.
Gentlemen, West Virginia has had maybe the most success cracking the Tigers defense, spreading the field and racking up 533 yards in a 47-21 loss to the Bayou Bengals. How much should the Bulldogs try to draw upon that game plan?
I don't know if they necessarily want to go copy that game plan, but as far as throwing the football, I think that's the way you win in this football game and you put points on the board. In that game, West Virginia, 463 yards through the air. As a matter of fact, LSU was surrendered 20 or more points 2 times this year. In those 2 games, over 700 yards passing against them. I think for us to be successful today, Aaron Murray's going to take this team, put him on his back, and then go distribute the football to Malcolm Mitchell, Chris Conley, Michael Bennett, Tavares King, Orson Charles. It's the strength and talent of our football team, and in big games, they've got to run with it.
You're absolutely right, Eric. Aaron Murray is the best quarterback in this league and one of the best quarterbacks in the nation. He has to come out and utilize the skilled guys that he have out on the outside. Of course, if we can get the running game going, this will give us an opportunity to do the play action type offense that we have. And of course, I feel very confident that we can come out and be productive against this defense.
3 months ago to the day, we coughed up 35 points to Boise State. How much better is our defense today than on September 3rd? And let's use numerical terms. 0 is horrible. 100 is impenetrable. What was our number then, DJ, and what is it now?
Well, I have to say, then it would probably been a failing grade in the 60s, but now I think it would be an 8 because it would be in the 90s because, again, our guys have had an opportunity to mature in this offense. We've added pieces to the pie that didn't play in that first game, and these guys have grown together. They understand what they're doing, and those youngsters that were on this roster early in the season, they're now veteran ball players.
Boy, DJ, I couldn't agree more. I think first game of the year, if you had to put a numerical value on it, we're probably 75. Today, we're probably more 90, 95. And the difference being Alec Ogletree now in the football game. You've got Bakari Rambo that didn't play against Boise State that is playing for us now. Jarvis Jones having been in the system after having not played for a while. John Jenkins, Kwame Gathers in the development they've had in the middle and across the board the way this entire defense has played. They're more comfortable. They're playing more physical. They're playing with more speed. And you put this defense against any offense anywhere across the country and they're going to hold their own.
You guys have got me fired up. I'm ready to go. This is great. We're down here on the floor of the Georgia Dome. Eric Zier, DJ Jones, Loran Smith.
Dog fans join us every Sunday from 10 until noon live from Hilltop Grill as hosts Jeff Dangler and Kevin Butler break down all the action from Saturday's game.
And hey, dog fans, don't forget to tune in after the game to BB&T Dog Talk live from the Hotel Indigo in downtown Athens.
All right, it's the second most prestigious title in college football. The SEC title is on the line, and we kick off today at 4:10. Georgia coach Mark Richt in less than 30 minutes. You're listening to the Metro PCS Tailgate Show on the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
First and 10, Georgia from the 15. Play fake, pump fake, throw to the corner. He's open. He's just got to catch it, and he does. And he gets his feet in. That's a touchdown. Chris Conley, the score. Freshman from Dallas. Boy, was he open.
Welcome back to the Metro PCS Tailgate Show. Hondo on the radio, along with Eric Zier, Loran Smith down here on the floor of the Georgia Dome. Here's a fun question for you guys to ponder for the next 60 seconds or so. The SEC media votes during the preseason to predict the eventual conference champion every year. In 20 years of picking who they thought the SEC champion would be, how many times have the media picked correctly? You think about that. We'll help you gear up for today's SEC title game. A note about 6 mutual opponents. LSU slaughtered 4 teams that Georgia beat by 2 touchdowns or less. Ole Miss, Kentucky, Tennessee, and Florida. LSU and Georgia both pasted Auburn, and we had similar margins against Mississippi State. So now to answer the earlier question, of the 20 attempts, the SEC media has predicted the SEC champion correctly how many times?
All right, so I'm going to say 8 times, and I'm also going to add to that they have never predicted Georgia correctly when we have won.
That's correct. But the 8 is wrong. The SEC media has picked the correct champion 4 times.
4 times.
Out of 20.
Wow.
4 times. And it's not like the team that they picked lost in the championship game necessarily. They only got that right. Those guys lost 3 times.
Right.
Okay, so the team that they picked to win the championship only made it to the championship game 7 times and only won 4.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that, huh? Okay, well, we'll come back with Eric Zier. We'll talk about a game plan for tonight's game, Georgia against LSU. Kickoff just over an hour away, and Georgia coach Mark Richt gives Scott Howard the inside skinny within the next 20 minutes or so. Win today, and we are headed to the Sugar Bowl. This is the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
The Metro PCS Tailgate Show continues with this Bulldog Point of Pride, presented by Plumbers, Pipe Fitters, and Technicians Local Union 72, paving the way today for a greener tomorrow. For the 411 on the University of Georgia, here's Steve Bell.
Bulldog fans, congratulations to University of Georgia honor student Matthew Sellers of Perry, Georgia. Matthew has been named one of 36 national recipients of the 2012 Marshall Scholarship to pursue graduate studies in the United Kingdom. He's the 5th UGA student to earn the award in the past decade and the 6th overall from the university. He will graduate in May from the university with a bachelor's degree in English and a minor in history. Students of academic excellence, another Bulldog Point of Pride.
The Metro PCS Tailgate Show rolls on with today's game plan, presented by Cotton States Insurance. For your own tangible financial security plan, contact the Cotton States representative today.
Murray calling the signals. The play clock down to 3. Now it's at 2. There's the snap. Handoff and a reverse to Malcolm Mitchell. He's got running room. Mitchell to the 30, 25, 20. Murray makes a block, and Mitchell down to the 10-yard line. Aaron Murray leading the way with a block for the freshman.
That was fun last week against Georgia Tech. Eric Zier back with us for a little game plan and action. Z, how much razzle-dazzle will our Bulldogs need to resort to in order to shake up the LSU defense?
You know, Hondo, I don't think we're going to see a whole lot of trick plays. I think just within our standard offense, we can do enough by bringing in both Brandons and mixing it up a little bit. I think what we are going to see is a very aggressive game plan, however, out of the Georgia Bulldogs today when we get into 4th down situations to go ahead and be aggressive and go after it, take every shot. We've got to make every possession count today in order to be successful. I think that we're going to be aggressive throwing the football. That's where LSU, if they shown any weakness whatsoever, it's been through the air. I think we put the football into the hands of Aaron Murray, let him do his thing. I think we're going to be very aggressive. Don't think we're going to see a lot of trickery. That really falls into the category of Les Miles with his penchant for trick plays and doing some things a little out of the ordinary. We'll keep it there. I think that we're good enough on offense to keep our standard offense just ratchet it up a notch and being aggressive.
All right, sound please.
How fast they are, all over the place. I mean, defensive line, linebackers, DBs, they're very talented. There's not really, you can't really point out a weak spot on their defense at all.
Bulldogs quarterback Aaron Murray there. 3 different Tigers have been named SEC Defensive Lineman of the Week, and 3 different members of the secondary have been named SEC Defensive Player of the Week. Sound please.
One of the things we like to focus on is creating space. That's really an opportunity to help Aaron and give him bigger windows to throw, and I think that's going to be one of our challenges this week.
That's Georgia freshman receiver. He's absolutely right. Where this LSU defense has struggled a little bit, if they've struggled at all, it has really been against 2 teams, Oregon and then West Virginia. Both those games, wide open offense that spreads you out. They do create some space, and then they use their speed to get after you. In those 2 football games, over 700 yards of passing against this LSU defense. That's a lot of yards. I don't care who you are on the other side of the defensive ball or defensive side of the ball to give up. Georgia needs to create that space and create that aggressiveness today, and we've got the talent to do it. Aaron Murray obviously playing at a very high level, but then you look at the tools and the weapons that he's got on the outside. Tavares King, Malcolm Mitchell, Chris Conley, Michael Bennett, of course Orson Charles. We've got to go with our very best, lead with the pass today, and then hopefully that allows and opens up a little bit in the running game, but it has to start through the air and Aaron Murray.
All right, Eric, we talk a lot about LSU's stupendous defense, but offensively, the Tigers led the SEC in touchdowns this season with 59. That's 3 more than Arkansas. We know how good their offense was. In fact, LSU has scored on nearly 50% of its drives in 2011.
Yeah, and they really start running the football. We've talked about the four-headed monster where they've got 4 running backs, each with 6 touchdowns. Lightest guy in that running back group, 215 pounds. They like to pound it at you, but they're going to be able to throw the football as well. Jordan Jefferson, as he has made his way back into the starting lineup, completing almost 65% of his passes. He's 64.3% completion rate, throwing it at 163 efficiency rating, which is off the charts good. So doing a lot of good things throwing the football as well. They've got a lot of different weapons to hurt you, but make no mistake, it starts on the ground, and if we can shut that down, make them predictable with what they want to do. I don't think Jordan Jefferson by himself is good enough to beat you if we can contain and slow down what they're doing on the ground.
All right, I've got to throw you a curveball. I was talking to David Green, our quarterback from 2 SEC championships ago, and he was saying that playing indoors, it's different because no crown. It's especially different for the quarterback. No crown in the middle of the field. How different is it going to be today for our quarterback, Aaron Murray, of course, and the LSU quarterbacks?
Well, no question. It makes a little bit of a difference. You go back to last week, however, Georgia Tech, their field, absolutely no crown. As a matter of fact, there's a slight crown in this field, or a little bit more than what you even saw against Georgia Tech, even though it's minimal. It does make a difference. The one thing when you're playing quarterback, where that crown helps you is it gives you a little bit of elevation when you're throwing out, so you're throwing the football downhill. These guys have been in these situations enough where they can adapt to it and adjust to it very quickly, and they're going to be good. It does help, in fact, that we played here earlier in the year. So we've had a little bit of experience, but it can absolutely affect what you're doing in the game.
No crown last week. Aaron Murray, 4 touchdown passes. That's pretty much good enough for me, Z. All right, thank you. Great job there. Eric Zier, Scott Howard, and Mark Richt with the Inside Skinny, less than 10 minutes away. This is the Bulldog Sports Network, live from the SEC Championship game at the Georgia Dome from IMG.
The Metro PCS Tailgate Show continues right now with a check of the Charter On Demand Top 25 scoreboard. Inside the IMG Network Studios, here's Cabell Philpott.
Counting you down to kickoff between the Dogs and top-ranked LSU in the Dome at 4 o'clock. Before we continue, let's pause for 10 seconds for station identification. This is the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG. Welcome back inside the IMG Network Studios. Checking in on the Charter On Demand scoreboard. 12-0 Houston taking on Southern Miss in the Conference USA Championship game. Southern Miss giving the Cougs all they can handle and then some.
Davis barks the signals, takes the snap, drops to throw, fires down the center of the field. Sullivan's got it, breaks the tackle. Sullivan at the 30. He's at the 20, at the 15. Sullivan's going to score. Touchdown, Southern Miss.
John Cox on the Southern Miss IMG Sports Network. You can hear the excitement in his voice, and rightfully so. The Southern Miss Golden Eagles outrushing the Cougars 176-63, playing great special teams, 42-21. Golden Eagles up on the Cougars at the end of the third quarter. Elsewhere this afternoon, lots of other scores and games to catch you up on. We'll begin with preview of the ACC Championship game, Virginia Tech and Clemson. Hokies are going to the championship game for the 4th time in 5 years. They get a chance to avenge their only loss of the season against the Clemson Tigers. Big Ten football championship from Lucas Oil Field at 8-17. Quarterback for the Wisconsin Badgers, Russell Wilson, hasn't been picked off since Michigan State did it back earlier this season Wilson leads the nation with a 192.9 passer rating. Michigan State trying for its first Rose Bowl appearance since 1988. Finally, they call it Bedlam. Number 13 Oklahoma and number 3 Oklahoma State. The Big 12 title is on the line. Sooners can still capture their 8th Big 12 title with a win over OSU, which last won a Bedlam matchup 38-28 at home November 30th, 2002. And Hondo, will send it back to you. Bedlam, I always thought that's what they called our tailgate show.
It is when the mics aren't on, that's for sure. Thanks, Cabell. We're rejoined right now by Loran Smith and Eric Zier, Scott Howard. Scott, we've talked about top-ranked LSU's balanced offense and suffocating defense, but the Tigers' best overall phase may be special teams.
Yeah, they're pretty good individually and on their team units. They've got an outstanding punter, a kid by the name of Brad Wing. He's a 20-year-old freshman, almost a 21-year-old freshman. He's from Australia, a former Aussie Rules football player, and he's a guy semifinalist, so he can certainly punt the football. LSU leads the SEC in net punting, by the way. Their field goal kicker is Drew Allemall. He is first in field goal percentage in the league, 16 out of 18. Mo Claiborne is second in the SEC in kickoff return average. He also had a 99-yard touchdown kickoff return earlier this season. Tyrann Mathieu is second in the league in punt return average. He returned one last week against Arkansas for 92 yards, and they are plus 19 in turnover margin, and we all know that you can get those turnovers. You can create them on special teams. So, yeah, they're solid top to bottom.
Boy, they sure are. All right, sound, please.
They're the number one team in the country, you know, and things bad are going to happen. They're going to make plays. I just feel like we should, when things bad happen, just let it go and play the next down, you know. Just play the next down as hard as you can.
That's Georgia linebacker Mike Gilliard. Z, he's talking about keeping composure against the number one team when that team makes a few big plays, and that's so critical.
It really is, and we've seen it happen a number of times when you watch this LSU team throughout the year. They have a propensity to allow things to snowball in their favor, to really get things going. You just take a look no further than the Arkansas game last week. Arkansas comes out of the gates playing pretty well, and then all of a sudden a few breaks go LSU's way, and they just gather that momentum and run away with it. This Georgia team is going to be faced with some adversity in this football game today. How they respond and how they respond quickly to that adversity is going to be critical in our success. And can we keep this thing close and take advantage of our opportunities? This LSU team has a lot of confidence. They're playing like that, and they've got an awful lot of talent. They're going to make some big plays. We just have to make sure that one big play doesn't cost 3 or 4 other big plays against us.
Loran Smith, does Georgia enjoy any kind of a home field advantage here in the Dome today? Obviously, here in Georgia, we've played in this building already this year. Less space to travel, fewer miles to travel.
Well, I think that there'll be more red in the Georgia Dome today than there will be purple. But we had that same advantage by a large measure against Boise State. Didn't turn out too well, didn't help us. I think in this game there's no real home field advantage. It is a neutral site. We don't come here every year. I think psychologically some of our players feel good about the fact that their fans and their friends, their close family, can get to the Dome without any real problem. No real challenge to get here.
All right, very good. Thank you, gentlemen. Scott and Eric will have the play-by-play and analysis for you today for the SEC championship game. And Loran is going to do his thing with me during the game as usual. And thank you very much, gentlemen.
And Bulldog fans, GeorgiaDogs.com is your first and best source for Bulldog news, scores, highlights, interviews, and behind-the-scenes video. You can also buy authentic Dogs gear in the G-Shop or bid against other Bulldog fans at our exclusive online auctions. Visit GeorgiaDogs.com today.
Coach Mark Richt and the Inside Skinny on today's SEC championship game. That's 2 minutes from Mark. This is the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
Back with Bulldogs head coach Mark Richt. Time for the Inside Skinny, brought to you by Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Call Geico at 800-947-AUTO or visit geico.com. Georgia Bulldogs playing in their fourth SEC championship game, Coach. Coincidentally, third against the LSU Tigers. So certainly it's a matchup that is familiar to a lot of Georgia fans. Talk a little bit about your week of preparation, how this week is any different from any other regular season week, if at all.
It's really not. You only have 1 week to get ready. Some teams in the past have tried to schedule an open date prior to the SEC championship game in hopes that if they get there, that they would have the extra week. And I don't know if the commissioner stepped in and said don't do that or what, but I don't see anybody having that open date prior to that game now. And I think people feel like they need that open date to try to get to the SEC championship game. So it's a 1 week prep, nothing really different. Monday we went in shorts, and Tuesday in pads, Wednesday in shells, and Thursday in shorts. It's the way it's always been. We implemented all of our game plan and kicking game just at the normal time, so it's not a whole lot different really.
Aaron Murray had another 4-touchdown passing game against Georgia Tech in the win over the Yellow Jackets last week. Talk a little bit about the type of year that he's had and his ability to get the ball to the right guy and then get it in the end zone.
Well, I think a lot has to do with Coach Bobo and the offensive staff and the planning that they do. They do a super job when it comes time for red zone offense. We've run a few in too, but we really have had a lot of success of guys, stressing the defense and running good routes and making the catch. A lot of those catches have been very difficult to make, and sometimes they've had to fight it out of rip it away from a defender. But for the most part, the schemes have been good. The protection's been good. Murray has made the right decisions, and the receivers are, finishing it up with making the great catch.
What is your reaction to the way the receiving game has evolved with Orson Charles leading the way at tight end, and then you've got two freshmen that have emerged as possible playmakers, and the guys that you had coming back, you've been able to rely on them as well.
It's been great. I love it this way. I've always really enjoyed having an offensive football team that spreads it around. You want different guys that make plays for you because it's good for morale. It's good for the quarterback not to feel like he has to force it to any particular player, and I think it's also good for when the defenses are trying to defend us and trying to decide, who do we cover, who do we double, who do we stop. They have a hard time figuring out which one to pick because there's multiple guys that make plays for us.
You told me before we started you didn't want to talk about the running backs, so I want to ask you about the running backs. I will ask you about turnovers and ball security and all of that. You've talked about that a lot this season and how important that is, and probably no more important than today. You've got the top two teams in the league in turnover margin going at it today. So talk a little bit about the importance of that today.
Well, the team that gets the most turnovers definitely has the best chance of winning. That's so true. I say it all the time, but the number one stat in football besides the final score is the turnover ratio, and that's what you start talking about winning the turnover battle, your chances of winning a game goes up exponentially, and we've worked real hard on it. We've taken away a bunch. I think we've taken away maybe even one more than LSU's taken away for the year, and LSU's just done a better job of not turning it over, and I think they've only turned it over like 9 times the whole year, and we've turned it over a few more, but nonetheless we've done a good job, and during our 10-game win streak we either won the turnover battle or we at least tied it. And of course when we played South Carolina we gave the darn thing away, and so we just got to play the type of game that is real solid, and we don't want to give anybody any gifts.
How will stopping LSU's running attack today compare to what we did last week against Georgia Tech, controlling one of the top rushing teams in the country?
Well, they're just so different. If you hold Georgia Tech to 240 yards, you feel like you did a pretty good job. If you hold LSU to 240 yards, you won't think you did that good of a job. So, it's just a different style. But probably 90% of Georgia Tech's offense is rushing yards, where LSU is very balanced, and they can throw and catch it pretty good too.
Mark, congratulations on the year so far. It's great to be in this position. I know you're elated, and one more mile to go today. So much good luck to you.
Thank you. It ought to be exciting.
All right, that's Coach Mark Richt and the Inside Skinny on the Bulldogs. Georgia and LSU coming up, and Hondo, we'll send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Scott Howard. Hey, you know what we haven't talked about this year is the great TV commercial that was put together by a group that called themselves the Bulldog Collective, a team comprised of Mike Martin, Ron Huey, Jason Hatfield, and Glenn Owen, who all graduated from Georgia. It's the REM 30-second television public service announcement for the university. Anybody who's watched football knows that they'll put a PSA on about the school. Well, it'll be a student talking or pictures of campus or whatever. And what they did was they got together with the university's public affairs office back in February, and in May they came up with a winning idea. They built the spot around the chapel bell, which of course is so special in the Bulldog lore, and ringing the chapel bell after football victories. Additionally, they put together the soundtrack, and our good friends at REM were kind enough to allow them to use the REM song "Oh My Heart" from their latest album Collapse Into Now, and they just played it here in the Dome, and I just love that that's the spot that is what we all use for the Bulldogs on the network games. So just terrific. We'll come back. We're getting fired up. Field is filled up with Bulldogs and Tigers here at the Georgia Dome. People are making their way in. It's the SEC championship game. We kick off at 4:10 tonight. This is the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.
Back into the shotgun. He stands just outside the Tech 20. Ball is on the 15. Murray with time. Throws it over the middle. Bennett on a crossing route. Bennett to the 10. Bennett to the 5. In the corner. Touchdown! Michael Bennett ran a crossing route from right to left. They couldn't catch him. Just a little easy, slow wobbler out of the hands of Aaron Murray. And Bennett gets to the far corner for the first score of the ball game.
10 straight wins. An SEC East title, a sweep of Georgia Tech, Florida, Tennessee, and Auburn. Our Bulldogs have accomplished quite a lot since our last trip to the Georgia Dome, and today Mark Richt's team will attempt to shock the nation by beating top-ranked and undefeated LSU. Over the past 10 seasons, the two teams with the best records in the SEC are LSU and Georgia. Over this decade, only the Tigers and the Bulldogs have earned 4 berths each in the SEC championship game. Not Alabama, not Florida, not Tennessee, Auburn, or Arkansas, LSU and Georgia. And we'll square off at 4:10 today. As we bid you adieu from the 44-yard line, we'd like to thank Charles Youngs, our producer and engineer here in the Georgia Dome, Cabell Philpott for his scoreboards and production from Bulldog Studios, DJ Jones and Tony Schiavone, contributors. For Scott Howard, Lauren Smith, and Eric Zier, this is Neil Hondo Williamson. The BB&T countdown to kickoff is next. Then it's the SEC championship game. Georgia back in the Dome for the 4th time in 10 years to take on top-ranked LSU. This is the Metro PCS Tailgate Show on the Bulldog Sports Network from IMG.